The morning of June 16, 2025, began with a scream. It echoed through the grand halls of the Hart mansion. Olivia Hart was gone. Her bed was perfectly made, a detail that was strange in itself. Olivia was never a tidy person. Her room, usually a creative chaos of books and half-finished paintings, was unnervingly neat. Her father, a man whose face was etched with the lines of business and power, paced the Persian rug in his study. He could not understand it. There was no note. There was no ransom demand. Just an empty space where his daughter should have been. The silence in the mansion was louder than any alarm. It was a silence filled with unspoken fears and the heavy weight of a family's perfect image cracking at the seams. The city news channels were quick to pick up the story. Heiress Olivia Hart missing, the headlines blared. Her face, a lovely portrait of youth and privilege, was suddenly everywhere. To the world, she had everything. A loving father, a devoted boyfriend named Lucas, and a best friend Emma, who was like a sister to her. They all played their parts for the cameras. Mr. Hart offered a staggering reward, his voice trembling with what looked like grief. Lucas spoke of their shared dreams and future plans, his eyes misty. Emma held a framed photo of them together, her sobs seeming all too real. But behind the staged sorrow, something felt wrong. The city watched, captivated by the drama, unaware of the tangled web of secrets hidden just beneath the surface. Olivia Hart lived in what many would call a gilded cage. Her life was a performance, directed by her father's expectations. He had planned her entire future, from the university she would attend to the man she would eventually marry, a business partner's son, not her beloved Lucas. She was expected to smile, to be graceful, to be the perfect daughter for the Hart family name. But inside, Olivia felt like she was suffocating. Every choice was made for her, every path laid out without her consent. She dreamed not of lavish parties or designer clothes, but of a small, quiet life. A life where she could paint what she wanted, love who she chose, and simply be herself, far from the judging eyes of her father's world. Her disappearance was not a simple case of a missing person. It was an act of rebellion, a desperate cry for freedom that nobody seemed to hear. The police were baffled. They searched her room for any sign of a struggle, any clue that could point them in the right direction. They found nothing. No forced entry, no broken windows, no signs of violence. It was as if Olivia had simply evaporated into thin air. The family's perfect facade held strong, but the first cracks were beginning to show. The absence of a ransom demand was the most puzzling piece. It suggested this was not about money. It was about something far more personal, something hidden deep within the heart of the Hart family itself. Into this confusing scene stepped Detective Sarah Williams. She was not a woman easily impressed by wealth or power. She had a sharp mind and an even sharper instinct for lies. Sarah observed the family with a careful, discerning eye. She saw Mr. Hart's controlled grief and wondered what it was hiding. She listened to Lucas's heartfelt pleas and detected a note of insincerity. She watched Emma's tears and felt they were a performance for an audience. Sarah knew that in cases like this, the truth was rarely what it seemed. The family presented a united front of despair, but Sarah sensed currents of conflict and resentment running beneath the calm surface. She decided to look past the obvious and dig into the places no one else had thought to search. Sarah's first breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Tucked away at the back of Olivia's closet, hidden beneath a pile of old art supplies, was a small, leather-bound diary. It was not the kind of diary a happy girl would keep. The pages were filled with Olivia's true feelings, her frustrations, and her deepest fears. She wrote about the immense pressure from her father. She detailed her arguments with him, his refusal to let her pursue her passion for art, and his plans to marry her off for business. The diary painted a picture not of a cherished daughter, but of a prisoner desperate for an escape. Every entry was a cry for help, a testament to a life she felt was not her own. The diary also revealed complicated details about her relationships. Olivia wrote about Lucas, her charming boyfriend. At first, the words were full of love and adoration, but as the entries progressed, a new tone emerged. She wrote of his growing obsession with the Hart family's wealth and status. He seemed more interested in the life she could provide him than in her as a person. She described his subtle manipulations, his way of twisting her words and making her feel guilty for wanting a simpler life. He was not her partner in escape. He was another chain holding her back, one disguised with sweet words and false promises of a shared future. Then there was Emma, her best friend. The diary entries about Emma were the most painful to read. Olivia had trusted her completely, sharing every secret and every dream. She had confided in Emma about her plan to run away, to start fresh somewhere new. According to the diary, Emma had promised to help her. She was supposed to be Olivia's accomplice, the one person she could count on. But the final entries were filled with doubt. Olivia noticed small betrayals, strange comments, and a growing distance between them. She began to suspect that Emma's loyalty was not as solid as she had believed. The diary ended abruptly with a single chilling question. Can I even trust Emma? Armed with the diary, Detective Sarah started connecting the dots. She revisited her interviews with Lucas and Emma, now seeing their words through the lens of Olivia's private thoughts. She confronted Lucas with the passages about his fascination with the Hart fortune. His confident demeanor crumbled. He admitted that he had been trying to convince Olivia to stay. He argued that running away was foolish when they could have everything they ever wanted right here. He saw her desire for freedom as a threat to his own ambitions. He hadn't wanted her gone. He had wanted her to stay and secure his place within the wealthy Hart dynasty. His betrayal was not in helping her disappear, but in trying to trap her further. Sarah's conversation with Emma was even more revealing. When presented with Olivia's doubts, Emma finally broke down. Her confession was a story of jealousy and resentment. She had grown up in the shadow of Olivia's wealth, always the supportive friend, but secretly envious of the life Olivia was so desperate to escape. When Olivia told her about the escape plan, Emma saw an opportunity. She pretended to help, but her true motive was cruel. She secretly informed Mr. Hart about Olivia's intentions. She had hoped that Mr. Hart would stop Olivia, perhaps by tightening his control even more, which would leave Olivia trapped and miserable. Emma never imagined that her betrayal would push Olivia to take such a drastic step on her own. The puzzle was now almost complete. Olivia had felt the walls closing in from all sides. Her father was controlling her future. Her boyfriend was using her for her money and status. And her best friend, the one person she thought she could trust, had betrayed her to the very person she was trying to escape. She must have realized she was utterly alone in her fight for freedom. The escape plan she had carefully crafted with Emma was no longer safe. She had to act fast, to disappear before her father could stop her, before her so-called friends could trap her for good. Her vanishing was not an impulsive act. It was a calculated move for survival. Mr. Hart's role in the affair was one of willful ignorance and control. When Sarah confronted him with the diary and Emma's confession, he was not shocked, but angry. He admitted he knew Olivia was unhappy. He had dismissed it as youthful rebellion, something she would grow out of. He believed he knew what was best for her, and that his plans would secure her happiness in the long run. He saw her desire for an independent life as a personal insult, a rejection of everything he had worked to provide for her. His love for his daughter was tangled up with his need for control, and in the end, his suffocating protection was the very thing that drove her away. Weeks after the truth had been exposed, Detective Sarah received a simple, anonymous email. It contained a single image, a painting of a sunrise over a quiet, unassuming coastline. There was no text, no signature, but Sarah knew instantly who it was from. The art style was unmistakable. It was Olivia's. It was a message of thanks and a confirmation that she was safe. Olivia had managed to escape on her own terms, using a plan that no one else knew about. She had outsmarted her father, her boyfriend, and her former best friend. She had finally achieved the freedom she had so desperately craved, leaving behind the gilded cage and all its suffocating expectations. Olivia started a new life in a small coastal town far from the city. She rented a modest apartment above a bookshop, using a new name and the secret savings she had carefully put aside. She spent her days painting, not for gallery shows or for her father's approval, but for herself. She sold her art at a local market, earning just enough to live a simple, peaceful life. For the first time, she was not Olivia Hart, the heiress. She was just Olivia, an artist. She found a quiet joy in her anonymity, in the freedom to wake up each morning and decide her own path for the day. The sunrise in her painting was a symbol of her new beginning. However, freedom came at a steep price. The betrayal she had suffered left deep and lasting scars on her heart. She had loved Lucas and had trusted Emma with her soul. The knowledge that they had both used her for their own selfish reasons was a heavy burden to carry. She had also loved her father, despite his controlling nature, and it pained her to know she had to sever all ties with him to be free. Her new life was peaceful, but it was also lonely. She found it difficult to trust new people, always worried about their hidden motives. The shadows of her past lingered. a constant reminder of how easily love and friendship could turn into deception. In the end, Olivia's story was not one of a simple disappearance, but a complex tale of liberation. She had to break her own heart to save her own spirit. She learned the harsh lesson that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. As she looked out at the ocean from her small apartment window, she felt a mix of sadness and relief. She had lost her family, her friends, and her old identity, but she had found herself. And though the cost was high, she knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that the freedom to paint her own sunrise was worth